It was 6 a.m. on November 11th, 2025. At a manufacturing plant on the outskirts of Cokato, Minnesota, the fluorescent lights flickered on over the metal benches. The early shift was beginning. Workers, mostly men, some new hires, arrived, clocked in, found their gear, and prepared for another day of metal and machines. Among them, a 20-year-old woman named Amber Czech. She had started just months earlier, a young welder fresh out of a 10-month welding program, eager to build a steady future for herself. She had ambition. She had a promise. She had a quiet confidence that came from doing something real, something skilled, something valued. Inside the plant, at Advanced Process Technologies, APT, which fabricates equipment used in food processing, the air smelled of iron, oil, and discipline. Sparks were regular companions on the factory floor. Workers stamped, welded, measured, turned wrenches, and fitted metal pieces. For Amber, welding was more than a job. It was her craft. She took up her station around 6 a.m., calm, ready, as she had many times before. But that morning, something catastrophic awaited. Then, a heavy step, a hammer pickup, a swing, a thud. At her workstation, Amber lay motionless, metal smoke and dust settling, machines humming as if nothing had changed, but the world already had. Within minutes, first responders arrived, but for Amber, it was too late. She had suffered severe head trauma, slumped among her welding tools, the glow of torches cold, pronounced dead at the factory floor. What should have been a shift like any other became a crime scene, a workplace became a death sentence, and a future extinguished. It would take hours, days, before the truth. This was not a tragic accident. It was intentional, premeditated, brutal, murder. To understand the magnitude of what was lost, we must first know what Amber represented. Born July 11, 2005, and raised in Hutchinson, Minnesota, Amber was by all accounts a normal, ambitious young woman. She attended elementary school at a local Catholic school and graduated high school in 2023. In high school, she played basketball for the Hutchinson Tigers, disciplined, determined, part of a team. Those early years built something: grit, camaraderie, work ethic. But whereas many classmates looked toward college, Amber chose a different path. She enrolled in a 10-month welding technology program at a nearby community college. In May 2024, she graduated with honors. That summer, she began work at APT in Cokato. She was among the few, a woman, in a traditionally male-dominated trade. Working with metal, torch, and hammer, she carved out her own space. And on days off, she volunteered, returning to her old high school to teach welding to younger students, encouraging, especially girls, to consider skilled trades. She carried a quiet dignity, focused, competent, determined. In the workshops and on the floor, she didn't draw attention seeking praise, only respect. In those halls of metal and sparks, she was carving not just metal, but a path for herself. To friends, she was ambitious. To the trade community, she was a symbol, a tradeswoman among many men, a young woman building a future with her hands and her heart. That morning, she came to work like any other day. At approximately 6 a.m. on November 11, 2025, Czeck, as always at APT, began their shift. No unusual activity had been reported. A few employees walked past one another on the shop floor, conversations quiet, machines powering up. Then, according to the charging documents, the criminal complaint filed by the Wright County Sheriff's Office, one man left his station, walked toward Amber's workstation. He picked up a sledgehammer and alarmingly struck her multiple times in the head. The blows continued even after she fell. 5, some reports say 6 or more. One while she stood, the rest after she collapsed. The weapon, a bloody sledgehammer, lay near her body. First responders arrived, but there was nothing to be done. Amber was dead by the time they lifted her. The medical examiner would later rule the cause of death as blunt force trauma to the head. Within hours, police detained a suspect without incident at the plant, David Bruce Delong, 40 years old, a coworker. According to prosecutors, Delong admitted, in custody, that he had planned the killing for some time. He allegedly told investigators he didn't like her. At his appearance in court days later, bail was set at $2 million with conditions, or $5 million without. The charge, second-degree intentional murder, though prosecutors said they may seek first-degree premeditated murder, pending further review and a possible grand jury indictment. Delong is set to undergo a mental competency evaluation. His court date for that is scheduled for January 15, 2026. But the facts as currently known, surveillance footage, forensic evidence, his own confession, paint a grim, indisputable picture. This was murder. A young woman in a workplace built for productivity, attacked by a colleague she trusted, and struck down for presumably nothing more than his hatred. The moment the news broke, shock rippled through not only the small community of Cokato, but across the trades nationwide. Women working in factories, construction sites, metal shops, many of them felt a chill. If Amber, new, young, hopeful, could be murdered just for showing up to work, who among them was safe? Family, friends, former classmates, welding students she mentored, all mourned. At her high school alma mater and local church, vigil after vigil. Her funeral drew dozens, peers, teachers, trades community members. A quiet goodbye for a bright future ripped away. At APT, production was halted for the rest of the week. The company released a statement saying it was heartbroken, cooperating fully with investigators, and providing support to employees. In the trades community, especially among women, the case triggered urgent reflection on safety, on harassment, on gendered power and vulnerability. Organizations such as the National Association of Women in Construction, NAWIC, quickly convened emergency meetings. Many shared stories that sounded disturbingly familiar: hostility, isolation, threats, subtle harassment, unspoken boundaries, fear. One narrative that circulated widely, though unverified, claimed Amber had filed as many as 5 harassment complaints with her employer's human resources (HR) department before her death. On social media, especially forums for women in construction trades, this narrative spread fast. But as of now, no credible evidence or reporting confirms that such formal complaints were ever filed or investigated. Experts and media outlets caution against conflating rumors and unverified claims with proven facts, in part because doing so risks overshadowing what is already horrifyingly true, that a young woman was murdered at work by a coworker. Still, the rumor and grief combined to fuel broader demands: calls for stronger protections, better screening, improved safety protocols, clearer reporting mechanisms, and more robust support for women in male-dominated trades. The killing of Amber Czech resonates far beyond Cokato, Minnesota, because this murder taps into something deep and persistent. Skilled trades like welding, metal fabrication, construction, often male-dominated. When women enter such spaces, the imbalance is real, socially, professionally, physically. Isolation can create vulnerability. Amber was new, young, perhaps in many ways alone. Her death underscores the danger that exists when prejudice or hatred is left unchecked. Usually, when one thinks of danger in a manufacturing plant, it's malfunctioning machines, safety protocols, accidents, not homicide. But Amber's case shows that threats can come from people, not just machines. Violence could come from coworkers, and workplaces, even well-established ones, can become crime scenes. Whatever the cause, hatred, resentment, personal animosity, the fact remains: a man with allegedly violent intent was working alongside vulnerable individuals. Was there monitoring, screening, reporting mechanisms? If harassment claims had been made, whether verified or not, were they taken seriously? The claims of multiple HR complaints, while unverified, reflect a concern many workers in trades have long voiced: that threats and hostility are often ignored until tragedy strikes. Immediately after the murder, trade groups and advocates began demanding reforms: transparent harassment reporting, anonymous hotlines, mental health support, stricter background checks, mandatory safety audits, better supervision on shop floors, and combating the culture of silence. In a world where more women are entering non-traditional trades, Amber's death became a rallying cry. Safety isn't optional. Respect isn't optional. Humanity isn't optional. Amber was 20. She had goals, potential. She believed in herself. She didn't ask for fame. She just asked for a job, a stable job, an honest one. And for that, she was murdered. That cruelty drives home the fragility of dreams in unsafe environments. But by remembering her, naming her, telling her story, there is hope. I hope that workplaces change. I hope that justice comes. I hope that other young women won't pay the same price. As of late November 2025, the man accused, David Bruce Delong, is in jail, charged with second-degree intentional murder, with possible first-degree upgrade under review. Bail set at $2 million, with conditions, or $5 million without. He's slated for a mental competency evaluation on January 15, 2026. Until then, he remains in Wright County Jail. No trial date has been set. For the justice system, this case will test not only evidence and legal definitions, but whether society treats violence against women in trades with the seriousness it deserves. If prosecutors secure a first-degree murder indictment, it may bring harsher sentences. But many advocates argue, beyond punishment, this should also drive reform. in workplace safety, culture, oversight, and protection for marginalized workers. Meanwhile, the memory of Amber Czech lives on, in forums, in call-outs for trade industry reforms, in the concerns of thousands of tradeswomen who now look over their shoulders and ask, "Am I safe?" In the welding sparks, in the metal beams, in the hum of factories across the United States, there are thousands of workers, men and women. People dream of a better life, people working hard, people trying to make a living with integrity, with skill, with dignity. And among them, some will carry fear because of what happened in Cokato, Minnesota. Because a coworker, someone they stood beside, welded next to, clocked in with, turned a workday into a tragedy. But there is also a chance, a responsibility, a chance to re-examine how we build workplaces, a responsibility to demand safety, respect, equality, accountability, to make sure that no one else becomes a tragedy headline. Amber Czech was more than a victim. She was a welder. She was a teacher, a young woman with potential, with a future, with hope. Her death reminds us, we must not wait until violence becomes murder to act. We must not wait until grief becomes a headline. We must act now. Because metal remembers, sparks fade. But when we build with respect, what we create can last.